Welcome in to episode 33 of the What Do We Do podcast. Kyle Bogey, Dewey Steffen here at Great Lakes Wealth. And Dewey, not only is this the second podcast of 2021, this is also now the first podcast where we're going to bring in a very special guest. And this is something that we're pumped about. One incredible guest every single month over this next year. And we have an unbelievable guest to get things started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to you, Kyle. Thanks to Sully. Thanks to our listeners and our YouTube watchers out there. 2021 is the vision of 2020, but doing it the right way, right? So taking it to the next level. Are you kidding me today? The one, the only Darren McCarty in the house. Thanks for being here, D-Mac. Oh, my gosh.
Well, hold on. If you're going to introduce him, you got to say 4-time Stanley Cup champion. No, I'm kidding. He doesn't need to do
keep
that.
going. Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
Hey, if he doesn't get it, Bogues, I'll remind him.
Anyway, we're so pumped and proud to have you here. I mean, Mr. Detroit Rock City, there is none larger in life. And, you're an amazing human being. You're 4-time Stanley Cup champion. Trophies are just one little piece of your puzzle. And we talked last year about what do we do. Kyle's got a lot of insight. Sully's got an amazing point of view. I had a little bit of value, but the three of us, nothing compared to what the rest of this community has when we come together as one big family. So with that, this is what it's all about.
Well, I think that, first of all, I'm honored to be here, even though it's episode Draper 33. Hold on. I'll get that out. But I am the first guest, so I can get over that because I can argue my way out of it at some point because he'll say I'm only great on this interview because he was involved somehow, taking credit. But that's what we want out of the director of amateur scouting of the Detroit Red Wings right now. But what I think is great, Dewey, is what you said about community. But also we have a history with in the golf community here, and like you said, and the big thing is now entering 2021. We're sitting here at Great Lakes Wealth, and I said to you, the thing is that growing up, you always think it's, wealth is money, and it's not. It's knowledge, and if there's any knowledge that I can spill because of my journey, and yes, those 4 cups are phenomenal. I'll remind everybody in my inner circle that I have 4 cups. In fact, the Dan Stalls and the Stalls boys got me my own, boxing robe with my number and the 4 cups on the side so I would shut up. But what we do is not who we are, and I think that moving into 2020 and what 2021, but what 2020 has given us is perspective. And unfortunately, we've lost some people close to us, and I know that, I'm in that, and it's real, and it's just something that we got to move forward. But it's also, too, I always look at the positive side of life, and I've been through the depths of my own hell, and I refuse to quit, and that's what I say to everybody out there, don't quit. And now you surround yourselves with people that have seen what you're about. So what the 4 Cups brings is that I go around now, and whether it's doing, the podcast and their comedy or, fire the band back up, no matter what, are at the hockey games, because thank goodness.
Grinder. Does Kyle, you know Grinder?
Come on.
I don't know. You're a youngster,
Made the video game back in the day. But
there you go.
But it's just a different, to enjoy the life and the different endeavors and the people that have paved the way, so to speak, because whether sacrifice or loss or lesson learned, and that's where we're at. So I'm not the same person that I was even when I hoisted the first cup 23 years ago or the last cup in 2008. And I'm grateful for that, and a lot of that, and an enormous part of that is this community.
So that's a great tease, because I want to get into kind of where we're at and where you're at in 2021. We'll do that, in just a little bit, but we might as well start, where, we all remember essentially, in that late 90s, mid to late 90s period where, we were all at home watching and waiting for the Red Wings to finally win that frickin' first Stanley Cup in 97. And for you guys to be able to get over that hump and do it for the first time in, 4 decades was simply unbelievable. But Obviously Claude Lemieux is something that certainly jumps to mind, I think, for a lot of people out there. But, is there something behind the scenes that you just reflect upon from that time period, 97 through, I guess, 02, and that first kind of, era for you here in Detroit that just you think so fondly of during that time?
Yeah, I think it's, I love telling the story because it's all about what I've realized. Darren McCarty just has to know why. Doesn't have to be right or wrong. Doesn't have to be anything. But why does he think that way? Why does this happen? Why? Just tell me the why. So because the importance is when we're talking about the Detroit Red Wings from 97 to 02, it starts way before that. It starts when I get here. It starts 93, 94. Scotty Bowman comes in, because here's the struggle, and is because right now, as a Detroit Red Wings fan, yeah, we're going through a bit of a suck. It wasn't
tough.
as bad. It wasn't as bad as the suck that I went through when I was in the '80s when I was a Wings fan, but I had the Tigers, right? So now everything's starting to sprout, but it's tough to be that fan. But here's the one thing: the next level of suck is being good enough and not being able to attain it, because that's when I came in, 93, 94, win the President's Trophy, lose to San Jose. Half the lockout year, the next year, go to the finals expecting to win and get stomped by Jersey. And at that moment, that wasn't the scariest moment because we were young, a lot of us, and we didn't really realize it's like, we'll get back. It was the next year, the 95, 96 year that we set the league record, 62 wins, and then get beat out in Game 6 by Colorado. And that's when you just, and I'm going to preface that because that's the scariest moment at the end of that game is going, oh, my God, we may never get back. And not only that, Game 6 was Claude Lemieux right in front of me. If you watch the replay in the second period, hits my best friend, sent him to the grind line, Chris Draper from behind, breaks his orbital bone, breaks his jaw. It sounded like if you've ever been to Old Tiger Stadium, and on a cold opening day, and that single to right crack on the bat, that's what his face sounded like. And here's the whole thing, right? Here's the whole thing, because this is what all of us here that have grown up there, and I consider myself Detroit's favorite stepson because I grew up across the border, but so whatever the area, right? Because that's what community is. It's not bordered by lakes or borders, in my opinion. It's the people, right? But it's the fact that in life and sports, bad things happen, but you cannot lose respect for a fellow human being. Right, and the fact that Claude Lemieux didn't apologize, said, in fact, no, screw Chris Draper, you would never heard of him. He probably just made millions of dollars because of me, and, that's heavy, man, because, then here's the heavy part. That's May of 96, or 95, right? 96. What year? Yeah, it's May of 96,
96,
right?
the year before, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's May of 96, 2 days after get Chris Draper out of the hospital. I pick him up, and the doctor gives me the pliers and says, in case he gets sick, snap his, cut his wires so he doesn't swallow his puke. And okay, doc. And this is the best that I tell everybody. This is so Hollywood, but this is the way it was. There was only one thing ever said and one thing asked, and it was by me to anybody about what was going to preview what happened 10 months later. I looked at Drapes and I said, don't worry, I'll take care of that. And then I asked him, where do you want to eat? Little prick. But I knew that was a setup because we went to Andiamo's in Grosse Pointe. And, dude, you know what it takes? You know how long it takes a guy to eat with his jaw wired shut, a plate of freaking gnocchi? 4 hours. Don't worry, I was still drinking. I was out on the boat hammering, so I was fine. But it takes 4 hours, and that's a little selfish.
Darren, how old were you back then? You guys were
25,
young, right?
Yeah,
25.
24, 23, 24, 25. So, and our crew, with Grindline, me, Mulch, Drapes, and at this point, Ozzy, Marty LaPointe, Matthew Dandino, Wardo, different things like that. But the whole thing is, right, so there's 10 months, right, but the significance as the season goes on is we don't beat Colorado. So we set the league record. You got to take it back as a fan. And you know what? The only time, I don't care what community you're from, but sometimes the only way out is through. So by the time March 26th came around, it was about the game. If you watch the Russian Five, as Sully just said he finally did. Thank you for getting around to that.
Hey, Sully, the control room. Good
Saw
to see you, pal.
Brendan Shanahan says in that, it says nothing was ever said, but it just something new was going to happen. But the thing is, he says it. We had to win the game, right? That's more important. So I'm thinking of so many different ways that I can get this guy, but not cost the team because I wasn't going to do that. We had to win. So the way that it happened, guys, I mean, like it's storybook. I said you give it to Ford Coppola or Tarantino, you can't write a better script. And I know I'm biased because I'm the star, but but you know, I remember inside the first period, and I always knew when Lemieux was on the ice and waiting for my opportunity. I look over and there's Peter Forsberg and Igor Larionov. Igor Larionov,
of all
guys.
people, the
Listen,
professor, yeah.
The professor, I think he should have been called Google, before Google, because, in the dressing room, they say, where'd you hear that? And you say, Iggy told me, go, must be true. But no, or Gandhi, second most, the only bigger pacifist in life is Gandhi than Igor Larionov. But he's had enough, and I see him slapping guys, and I have to snap out of it because I'm like, oh, look at the puppies on Christmas morning. They're so cute, right? But then I realized Lemieux's on the ice. But Adam Foote, ugly, big, nose lumberjack, grabs me, he's strong, and then Shanny comes through just like Hollywood, breaks me free. I fade the linesman, and this is what I love to tell people at the comedy shows and stuff is that, I'll tell you the difference between a cold cock and a sucker punch. Sucker punch from behind, 99.6% of the time don't do it. The other 0.4, they deserved it. But a cold cock is when, think about it. 10 months you've had to think about how you're going to smash this guy in the face and or whatever. You got one shot. It's like Eminem. You got one chance. And I don't even think the song was out then. But it was like you have to. That's what I tell everybody is do not be afraid to wish or work for your goals, but you have to be 100% committed to the end goal, right? And this was that because here's the caveat. I'm a lefty. I'm left-handed. Watch all my fights. I'm Jack Johnson, left-handed. This one, now that I always say the hospital in the graveyard, right? But this I pulled back was my right hand, and every man, woman, and child in wing-wheeled nation in the universe was in that hand, and I hit him so hard that everybody said he turtled. I folded him into a turtle. No, Claude Lemieux, and I just heard it. Scott Gomez, who's a former teammate, said that's not. He even says he's got a welt on his head to this day from being stupid. Because then I smashed his head. I got him down. I'm trying to rip his heart out through his nostrils. I know it's not possible. I look over in there. I see drapes, and it was like church where the sunbeam comes through the glass. It was. Yeah. It was. And the first thing I go, oh, Genesis, eye for an eye. Oh, must be a little bit more Jewish than I thought, Dewey. And then that's from growing up in West Bloomfield all these years. And I walked in there and bam. And I tried to knee him and whatever. The joke of the whole thing is I got 4 minutes for roughing it, 10 minutes.
Yeah, how did you not get kicked out of that game? I always marvel at that.
I think all I would say is you might want to ask Paul Dvorsky or Dan Shackey, who reffed the game the year before that Drapes got hurt in. I don't know if back then.
Plot thickens.
I'm just saying. Anyway, so but here's the caveat, right? The caveat, and I'm not saying if we're sitting here and we lose the game, that we're not saying, oh, at least we beat them. But the whole thing is that we were down 5-3. We tied it up, and the kicker, the God shot, whatever you want to say, is like the don't F with me moment is who scores the overtime winner? Me. So I slay the dragon, and I got the girl. But here's the whole thing I want everybody out there to realize, right? It's because at that moment, it was the first time. It was the first time that that proverbial sigh of relief, it's going to be all right. I don't know what it means, but it's going to be all right. You look how it played out. Then I go beat guy one-on-one my whole career and score the Stanley Cup clincher, but we go back-to-back. And then, boom, four cups. I caveat that because I've had that feeling one other time. And that was last year when Steve Yzerman was introduced as general manager of the Detroit Red Wings.
Hallelujah.
And I went, okay, yeah. It was just like I knew it. So it's not when, it's when. And you look, because I look at that front office and would caveat to this day about why is now the time to dig in with your guys, because it's starting. And what do I think? 4 or 5 years, right? It's going to take them half the time, these next couple of years. But we're moving. And if you look at all the sports teams, there's some rumbling, there's some moving going on, and whatever you're a fan of, you can actually be proud to get back on those wagons and stuff like that. And, like even down to the Lions and stuff. To me, it's just at least there's a different ear or a different voice it's Chris Spielman in that room. Right? So whatever happens, but it goes down to culture, because all the things we're talking about are culture of what not just us, but everybody's all about.
See, and that's the thing. There's so many different parallels on and off the ice, on and off the field, whatever it may be. Sports and real life, working on a team, working at Great Lakes Wealth, whatever it may be, because it needs to be personal.
Yes.
You need to have an attachment. You need to have a relationship, touch that individual, that friend, because I don't think if you guys, didn't go through some of those things, you didn't get kicked in the in your teeth, over and over and over again, and it didn't become this super personal thing. I don't think any of it would have happened.
It's one thing that I think, and it takes longer to realize, but no, it's the perseverance of the people. It's people, places, things, but it's the people that you surround yourself with. And as long as you're on the same page and on the same goal and your intentions are the same, you don't accomplish that goal, well, you'll regroup and figure it out. Now, you look at, we had Scotty Bowman and Steve Yzerman, and but we learned all the greatest things. And I, to this day, that, even in my life, is that I've learned from learning what I don't want more than what I do want. And that's the beauty of it. And it goes to what you're saying about team. It's the exact transparency and everything about the people I surround myself with. The first question is, where is the win-win? Right? Where's the win-win? I know, and when people realize that there's really no competition, right? You're competing with yourself to be the best self, and you want everybody around you to be the best that they are, that it only brings out the best. And I'm done. And don't get me twisted. If you're not doing, I don't care what you're doing, but if you're not doing what I'm doing, get twice away from me, because more people are coming with me, and I need more room for the ones that want to say, what do you mean by that? Not the ones that argue. And how do I know that? Because I'm one of the ones that has survived so far, like Dewey has, for the grace of God at different points, and now it's about, it's giving back, and it's getting knowledge and sharing my truth, which led me to cannabis because it saved my life. And now it's one of these things that I remember the day that I had the physical addiction to alcohol released from me through 8 days of detox of Rick Simpson oil, which is the plant fully concentrated, the medicinal, it fights the cancer and stuff. And I got on my knees and I was in tears, grateful. And then I got mad because if I didn't know the truth of this plant, and thank goodness that here in Michigan, I always joke, I go, 2020, yeah, that sucked, right? Well, not for DMAC. Gambling's legal, cannabis is legal, and I got WJR show from 7 to 8 on Friday night. So, I mean, your suck level might be a little bit larger than mine, but I look at the positive. But it's the whole point. It's who do you surround yourself with, and because it's what do you like to do. And here's a simple, easiest thing, Dewey, to know is I want to do. We're talking about Bogey, and you're talking about Sully, and you're talking about Brand25. Well, the object is to do enough stuff that we can golf, and because we enjoy golf as much.
Cattails every Friday morning.
Every
right?
Friday
morning. These guys have never beat you, right? You are. I've heard you're undefeated. You might have more than 4 cups against these guys.
No, they're not. I don't think.
Coming for you next year.
Coming for me. They're on, but they don't understand is that the healthier I get, the better. Because what they don't have is the mental. See, Sully doesn't have the mental game. Bogey's getting there. Bogey's going to be the closest out of all the let me just say the media types. Right. Yeah, Bogey's got the most potential for right now until Sully's going to come to that point, right? And it's usually called puberty. Right, and in golf puberty, it's different, right? Right when you realize, right, what do you care about? Like, don't fake yourself out, right? So for me, right, anybody who knows me, like I'm a solid 6 to 8. Like, I mean, I should always shoot around 80. I can go lower than that or whatever, but I hit this little butter cut, and they used to call me sneaky short and stuff. So I don't care what I shoot. I'll shoot. As long I've only teeter-tottered 90 once in the last, and that was ugly. And I think I had to finish par to, but so it's one of those things. But I don't bless it because I'm trying to draw the ball. If I sit there and just play my cut all day, I'll shoot 78. It's what do you put in to get out? So now it's what you care about, but it's fun. But because it's fun to watch these guys battle it out and grind it out and care so much and ribbon and that's to me what for all of us that love golf and I'm so freaking proud. You talk about the Metro Detroit golfers. I hope everybody out there who's listening to this is involved, because it's about that relationship. And we know, I remember the first time.
Darren, it's that word again, community.
So obviously we touched on 97 to 02, everything that went on in that era. You certainly.
Hold on. Sorry.
Please.
From that era, right, which is and you look at it, right, because you got to look back in the history. I just call it like I see it, right, but the caveat, right, the greatest part about having cups isn't like, hey, I got a cup. It is when
you're a fan watching.
Well, I got it with him, and I got it with him. It's the stories and then what went into it, right?
Yeah.
And it's the best.
The locker room.
Here's the best story when you think about it for Darren McCarty. When you're having a bad day, it could always be worse. You know why? You could be Patrick Waugh. Exhibit A. Okay, we run him out of Montreal. 11-1.
11-1.
Which he walked by the gentleman. I'd never play for this team again.
Yeah, cussed him out as he walked to the locker room.
Trade me RFN. Trade me RFN. Right? So he goes to Colorado, which then they beat us out. Like I said, so we created that monster that had to get through them. So there's Exhibit 1. And I'll say, so Game 7, 0-2 on our cup run. We shut him out 7-0 or whatever like that.
I missed the first 4
and he
goals.
retired, right? So we got him. So and then in the middle of it, I'm not talking about my hat trick in Game 1. I'm not talking about all the times I scored over his glove. He's a Hall of Famer. It's a bad glove, right?
Hey guys, it's Bogey. I want to take a second to talk to you about Dewey Steffen and his excellent team at Great Lakes Wealth. Look, do you feel overwhelmed with managing your assets in today's financial world? I mean, think about the times we're in. Do you want financial freedom instead? Great Lakes Wealth offers Wall Street solutions with Main Street values. They sit down with you to develop custom financial solutions utilizing all of your assets, even your 401k. They build the future you want based on your goals and your dreams. That's what Great Lakes Wealth is all about. Thinking about you, thinking about your family, and thinking about your future. Simply go to greatlakeswealth.us to schedule an appointment today. They offer better investments and better service than anyone out there. Your road to financial freedom starts at greatlakeswealth.us. Please visit greatlakeswealth.us or simply give Great Lakes Wealth a call today.
You could be Patrick Waugh. That's D-Max. That's D-Max if you're down and out, do what he do.
Perfectly said.
Yeah, Kyle, before we move on to that next, stage, if you will, just for a second on that, right? This here at Great Lakes Wealth, Wall Street Solutions, Main Street Values. In Detroit, it's blue collar, right? A grind line, right? You weren't a bunch of pretty boys. You aren't out there. Maybe you are, but it was more to roll up your sleeves and take care of your family, right? It was anything goes. You got to protect the family. Is that kind of?
Well, that was my mantra. So the grind line, which made it so, which made it so unique, is because you had two of the greatest, in my opinion, tag team. The Draper and Maltby tag team penalty killers, tag team defensively, but also too, and then to be able to, because I played a lot with Stevie in that, but what Scotty would do is he'd sub Joey Kosher and I in until Joey retired, but I'd start the game and finish the game, and I'd go play with Stevie. But Scotty always liked moving parts. But the one thing is that, like, I don't know how many times it happened, is that, like, I'd seen them abuse Wayne Gretzky with right? My thing is, that, I go into piles and they'd be going, oh, Draper, Maltby, they're a bunch of a-holes. And I'd be like, yeah, they are, but they're my a-holes. Now what, right? But my job was why I always went on the ice last and always came off last, is that those are my guys. Yeah. So I protect. So I had this protector that, and it wasn't like, I enjoyed it until they put in the tie-down rule, because me being smaller than the bigger guys, then it took away from a style that I would fight, get out of my jersey, and plus – that was listen, if I was going to take a couple punches to the head, I'm going to get half naked for some chicks. I don't care. I don't care. There is a mentality to it. Where's the win-win in that, right? Okay. So that sort of took it away. But the thing is, it didn't matter what, because whether I wanted to or not, I didn't want anybody else to do it, unless it was Joey or Proby at the time, or if it was somebody that was bigger. I never wanted to be the the biggest. I always like to be Robin. That's where I knew that coming in, and I could make the team because Proby in 93, 94, he needed a Robin to his Batman.
See, it's funny that you bring that up, though, because I think it's changed so much in this day and age in sports because not everyone has that mentality. I'm not even just talking hockey. Football, basketball, you can run down the list of everything. Guys don't have, and particularly young kids, don't have the mindset of, okay, what can I do for the team? It's, I want to be the star. So for you to have that mentality, I thought back then it was kind of a normal thing, I think personally. Today, this day and age, I don't think we see that enough where guys are just willing to do whatever, maybe sacrifice some of their glory, some of their points, some of their touchdowns in order to simply better the team and do their job.
But then you see success, and then you really see when. So I encourage you to watch sports, and that's a great observation. So I encourage you to watch sports to say, who are the ones that have the talent that get the most out of it. So to your point, Nick Saban's a better coach than he gets credit for, just because he's got all the 5 stars. But it's like Scotty Bowman. You get all the. It doesn't matter what recipe or whatever you have. It's how you put the recipe together, and it's if the ingredients believe in each other, and it goes back to that community. As you watch the Russian 5, because the best thing is the fact that it's 100% real as far as emotionally, as far as invested. We loved each other no matter what language we spoke, what religion, whatever else. Who cared? But we loved brothers, left and right. And I never went to college, but I got, 15 years of fraternity brothers, man. I mean, and even more so. I mean, the greatest thing now where I'm at, and this is watch me segue. This is a great radio. So
it's like you've done this before. Yeah, it's great.
So Kyle calls it a transition. I'm just learning these things.
No, because because now some of my closest friends I fought or I played against, like the Scott Parkers in Colorado and Brad May, who fought with Riley Cote, all the tough guys who are getting together, Ryan Vandenbush, stuff to better their lives, because a lot of guys with concussions and PTSD and whether they're on some of those guys are on the psilocybin, the microdose mushroom thing, and it's supposed to help with that. That's not my journey. That's not my concern. And the one thing that I realize is with the cannabis, and my main concern is that everybody understands the CBD and the CBN and the CBG and what that everybody can have and why their body needs it. It's a simple conversation. So that's where and it's like anything else. I tell everybody, find something you're passionate in, and then figure out a way that you can make it work. So we're sitting here right now, right? And I'll let you get it. We got the Darren McCarty brand.
The roll-on.
It's the CBD roll-on that'll be e-commerce everywhere. That it took 2 years for Brent and I to put it together, but it's everything I could ever want because, it helps with everything. And you could speak of it because when I was doing the test samples out on the golf course, Bogey was one of my test subjects.
Oh, as sore as can be out there. And I deal with shoulder pain and all that. Put a little CBD roll on, and I was hitting bombs, right?
Roll
yeah. There you go.
Right.
Yeah. No, but so talk about that transition a little bit, because there's a lot of athletes who they finish out their career, wrap up, and then it's like, okay, what do I do now? I guess going from the end of your career to where you are now, how did you discover and form that relationship with CBD? How did you buy into that? And now here you are at a point with your own line.
Life-saving mechanism by chance, because let me start here. So the biggest concern for me and my compadres is the transition when you're done, whatever sport, and it doesn't matter what level. It's because if there's 3 or 4 years where I was really lost and without the love of a woman, and it's not doing it for anybody else, because I have 4 wonderful kids and 2 wonderful stepkids, and it's not, and I love my dogs, and it's not about that, but it's, you got to do what is your trigger. And it was the love of a woman, and it wasn't not as sexual. It was a belief in me, and she didn't even know who the hockey player was. She knew the person. And it was just because I quit fighting, and I'm an alcoholic, right? Which means don't be upset, because thank God I'm not a diabetic, because then it'd ruin my chocolate edible buzz, right? But it was through. So I was used to be 70 pounds heavier. My organs were going to explode. I mean, I would get sick when I didn't drink, not when I drank. I mean, it was really bad. And through the love of the cannabis community, and I'd had a caregiver, and they've been talking it for a while. And here's the one thing is where just don't lie to the person in the mirror. As long as you don't lie to that person, then you can move forward. For me, I'd walk by him all the time till right near the end. I stopped and I said, I'm dealing with you right now. And he said, you ain't going to come back alive. And I was like, Schwarmy, mother. And it was like, okay, and we started having this relationship, and it was just to realize what a piece of garbage that I was. I made bad choices. I love Larry Lawton. If you follow Larry Lawton, he's the jewel thief on YouTube. But he says, this is bad. I don't believe in bad people. I believe in bad choices, right? And so it was really a deep down dig, and so the cannabis, because there's Rick Simpson oil, which is called RSO, which is the whole cannabis plant concentrate in the medical form. And if you hear about RSO, it has cancer curing properties, and it's well proven. Well, it has the ability to eat, because the greatest thing about being an alcoholic is your body will recover, right? As opposed to being an opioid addict where you sever the receptors and they'll never reconnect. So as long as the why, you realize what it is. So the fact that you have an endocannabinoid system, and that's just, so when I understood, I said, wait, what? So I have a food processor in my body, and this plant specifically is for that, and this plant has 500 and what properties in it. So am I getting this right, that it's just my responsibility what I put in my system? So okay, so what you're saying is when I hear CBD or CBG or CB, so the C's are for my body. So the C's have nothing to do with a high or my head. No, what do? They regulate your sleep and your appetite and your digestion. Is that what I'm understanding? So the C's, you'll never get a buzz. Oh, it's that THC, that devil, THC. Oh, you're misspoken. THC is not the devil. THC is the doorman, because what he does is he regulates as the cannabinoids come in and how they interact. How do you know this? Because if you ever run across topicals or anything, you will never get high unless it cuts the skin. So that's why the topicals and stuff like this, it's a different powerful. So now when we transition into the CBD, because I believe that every human being can get the benefits from kids to whatever to the CBD digestion. And my next thing that I'm really into is CBN, because I'm an insomniac, and we have two different levels, and it's different because if like people say, oh, the edibles and stuff, well, you got to be very careful. Don't tell me what, tell me who, but when you dose the edible, you're along for the ride. With the CBN, because it's non-hallucinant, right? There's two levels. Take the bear down and put the bear to sleep. So there's so much education, and it's just the same thing as if I'm, don't come to me about wealth advice. Come to Dewey like I do. It's like Dewey, what's going on with it? Because you don't have to know everything. It's just the fact you have to know the right people.
Yeah.
Right. We have a saying is that if I do not know, then I will find the best possible person in my circle to find out the answer. And that's all it is because it's the team.
Back to community.
Back to community, back to team.
And together, everyone achieves more.
And it's establishing the culture, right? And the culture is now, I use this analogy. I love analogies. I use this analogy is like now being cannabis being legal in the state of Michigan, well, they've given us the opportunity to have pets. But now you got to train your pet, which means you can. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to go to somebody in a white coat to write you something and you go take. You have some sort of say, because at the end of the day, it's not about whether you do or you don't. It's whether you have the option.
Well, and I think that's, I mean, it's really well said, but I think education, is really the biggest thing. And, Dewey, I know just to tie this all in, at Great Lakes Wealth, you're certainly a believer in the cannabis industry and investing here moving forward as well.
So we have a cannabis portfolio, right? We started it over 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And why? Because it's the fastest growing industry on the planet. No pun intended, right? So, and you're right, Darren. We talked about this last year in one of our podcasts. It's not the THC. The fastest growing part of the cannabis plant is the CBD, and particularly related to the medical sales, the industry and the sales therein. The one data point I'm going to tell you is in 2020, this year, right? That just ended. Estimates were $7.5 billion U.S. medical sales. Okay, 2025 U.S. medical sales estimated to be 13.82%. Call that a double. 7 to 14 billion. That's a double in 5 years. Okay, check this out. The recreational cannabis sales estimated to be 8.2 2020, only 10.8 2025. Okay. Great, 25% increase in 5 years, fantastic. But that's not a double. The industry is moving from get high just for recreational purposes to get attention for medical purposes.
Well, the beauty of it is, not only that, here's the greatest gift that why things move so fast, in my opinion, is you look at hemp, which is what cannabis is grown from. You look at who's the greatest ally right now. They're fighting, the hemp plants are fighting the plastic, right? So now you have another ally to fight what the right, and the truth is coming out, right? So it's the truth will be shown, and obviously across this country through elections and everybody, the people's, voice has been, and it's about the education. So that's the whole thing. It's what I always say, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not the what, it's the who. That's the whole thing. So right now, if you notice, the Darren McCarty brand is licensed by Pinkana. So that's my licensing. But in the meantime, that contract will be up in February of 2022. So at that point, it's like, and it's the one thing that right now I enjoy being parts of different things, but I also too, I'm not. I have there's people are growing all over the place, and you have influence, but it's one of those things is what's the next move? And you mentioned it. The huge part is also like
people don't know there's a difference right now.
The education.
Yeah, that's huge.
So that's and that's the biggest thing is the what do you mean by that? And bringing the education and bringing the cannabis community together in the conversations and because I continue to learn. Why? How do I learn? I surround myself with smarter people than I do, and they explain to me why. And then once I get the why, I'm so passionate about it that it sticks because down the road, and there's nothing like somebody who you don't expect coming up to you saying, "Thank you, you changed my life. I saw you do this, or I saw this, and I smoked." You know what I mean? And it was just a life changer.
Countless stories.
I was like, now you know that. So here's the thing. Now you know the truth. It's your responsibility what you do with it. My responsibility, obviously, my heart, virtues, vulnerable truth, and integrity, which explains the March 26th that I'm the one that always has it going first. And if it's not right, I figure I'm dead anyways if they're going to get to you. So, I mean, why wait?
So we wanted to, and I can let you certainly set this up, but we want to create a little bit of a theme with every single guest that we're going to have on this year. And again, we appreciate you being our first guest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge.
DMAC in the house, baby.
I think
I'm honored.
We need to change DMAC's bio on his social media accounts. 4-time Stanley Cup champion, first guest on the What Do We Do podcast. I mean, talk about a resume builder right there, right?
You tell the traits.
Yeah,
please.
Let's go ahead and add that. But
let me talk to the administrator.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll see what we can do. But you had a great question. I think this does kind of tie into the What Do We Do podcast and really what we want to accomplish in 2021 on the pod.
Yeah, we're here to educate, Darren. This is a free pod for the community. We talk about wealth, but we talk about health, and we talk about wise, healthy, wealthy, and wise, right? And so with this being the new What Do We Do for 2021, we want to ask our guests, and again, let's say it one more time, the very first guest, there'll be never, ever again a very first guest. And that's the one and only Darren McCarty. We're so glad that you're here. But with that, Kyle asks me every day, all day. Sully calls me every morning before he gets up and has his Fruity Pebbles. Dewey, what do we do? Right? So it's always, what do we do? Because that's the podcast. Well, we want to know what Darren do. And what do we mean by that, Darren, is we want to know what the current Darren McCarty would tell the 18-year-old Darren McCarty to have him, look out and catch the back of his head, and then take care of that.
Dewey, Bogey, I'm honored not only to be the first guest, but the first delivery of What Do We Do. 18-year-old D-Mac out there, what you do right now on your 18th birthday is you make sure someone older than you, wiser than you, sits you down and explains to you what your credit score is, what it means, how powerful it can be for you, and how not to get lost in the world of credit. If you start out properly with the guidance of somebody to know what you're doing, it's who controls the money, controls the conversation as far as, and listen, I'm not the person. Dewey's the guy to go to for money. For me, I'm not very good with it. That's why I give it to the people around me, and then I keep waking up every morning. So that's a good thing.
No, but in all reality, though, it's a very good point because I've learned a ton of things that I'm 31. I learned a ton of stuff I didn't even know about investing, putting money away, things that you should be paying attention to, multiple streams of income, finding other ways to make money.
How many sectors in the S&P 500?
11.
Booyah.
Yeah, crushing it. So I do think financial education, investing education, credit score education, so unbelievably important to understand the value of a dollar, what it means, and where it can go.
And here's the thing. Is the most important thing, when you're looking for knowledge, is you don't have to, because when you start talking like that, my eyes start going, but it's also, so who is that person like Dewey that can speak to you in the terms that you want and explain it to you, because then it's that, it's about Dewey, community, culture, community.
There's the theme.
That's the theme. And then everybody working towards, the common goal, and what is it you want to do, and what is it you want to do? How do we help you achieve what you want to do? That's.
Well, D-Mac, a lot of knowledge, wisdom, some fun. I could hear the Claude Lemieux story about a million times over again, but we appreciate you being here with us, the first guest on the What Do We Do podcast, episode 33. I know, Dewey, you're very excited about this as well, and just again, we really appreciate it.
Detroit's adopted son, the one and only Detroit Rock City legend, D-Mac, Darren McCarty. We're so glad you're here, and as we always say, we're just getting started.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or any specific security. It's only intended to provide education about the financial industry. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Any indices referenced for comparison are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. As always, please remember investing involves risks and possible loss of principal capital. Please seek advice from a licensed professional.